Ready to do an input junkie. This is going to be a little different. The way input junkie normally works is, it's called input junkie because we discuss our inputs for the week. Inputs can be anything you put in. Movies, TV, books, comics, food, whatever. So normally we do this little structured thing where we say, okay, each of us give 2 inputs and we talk about our favorite stuff of the week. But something has happened in the last 2 weeks. With the 3 of us, we have started a new show that is on the Live at the Blue Box feed called Counterculture. And what Counterculture is we kind of broke the mold of input junkie, and it's much more free form. You know how like when you work at a place and everyone's like, wow, this is so interesting, everything's so cool, this should be a TV show, this should be a reality show. Well, we kind of said, you know, we have such great conversations with each other, why don't we record them? We like to think they're great. So far, the level of booze we've gotten have been a little lower than expected, so that's good. But that's what we did. We said, let's just turn it on and see what happens.
Well,
and the
we
whole
do it
idea,
here during the weekday. A weekday. Just we come here, we sit, we eat, and we just talk
and we record it.
Whatever we want to talk about.
And in the end, we're hoping to actually make something out of nothing. I think that's really what it is. Well, that's what our input junkie tonight is kind of going to be. It's going to be input junkie, but I have a feeling it's going to venture into counterculture. So absolutely, sit back and enjoy it. Feel free to jump in. We love participation, right?
And I won't be out there heckling, so we need you.
Yeah, right.
And please feel free to heckle.
Yeah. Hey, don't point at me.
Oh, sorry. I subconsciously pointed at you. I apologize.
Like, heckle.
Yeah. All right, so let's introduce ourselves. Let's start down on the end there.
I am Chris Mao, owner of the Blue Box Cafe.
Yeah.
I'm Martha Southgate.
Owner of Blue Box. Oh, yeah, okay. Southgate Media Group. And I'm Rob Southgate, co-owner of Southgate Media Group. All right, so let's jump into Input Junkie here. Who wants to start?
I want to start.
All right, let's hear it.
No, I was not.
I saw the microwave.
You saw the microwave?
I stood by the microphone too much in the 80s. I'm sorry.
All right.
Do you remember the 80s? Okay. Amazing Race started this week, or the 26th season, and we at our house, we love Amazing Race. I don't think you and I have ever missed.
I don't know. Did we watch the first?
I think so. I don't think we have ever missed an Amazing.
No, I think we have watched all of them. We love that show.
Did you watch it when it was so races?
Yeah. No, it's always been amazing.
Yeah, less than Amazing Races.
But okay,
that's when they went to Gurney and Rockford.
This season might be the less than Amazing Races. They have got they took on a certain number of couples that have been dating for a while, and then they took total strangers and paired them up like a first date.
Nice.
So they have to run the race.
So they have to go through around
like
the
a
world.
first date.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
And try
first
not to
date
kill each
is
other.
a race around the world.
Because we would want to kill each other the first 5 minutes, but
we've only been up here for 5 minutes, and I'm ready to
do you
kill
want to
you.
kill me?
Yes,
Do I want to do with the microphone?
Chris, you want to be over here and be the buffer?
Okay, so they always have one
It's a buffer.
sort of one celebrity on at least, like they always have one ringer. So the one from this season is Jonathan Knight from New Kids on the Block.
Okay, I knew it was from New Kids on the Block, but I didn't know what his name was.
Oh, wait, we're videotaping.
Whoa, wait a minute! We videotaping?
Got it.
Wow!
I hate videotaping.
William, are you videoing?
Molly, did you see my new kids video?
No.
Oh, too bad. You might have dodged the bullet.
You still have a chance. Then.
Wait, is he recording?
I don't know.
He might not be.
You might have gotten lucky there. You might have dodged a bullet.
Oh.
So,
okay, so they've got.
Wait, I want to ask you a question about it.
Why?
Well, you said this might be the less than amazing.
Yes.
One, what are you like? Because I
was about to say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, we got the thumbs up.
Oh, by the way, we do have to.
Oh no!
Yes.
Well, I might as well do it again. Okay. Sorry, Molly. The other thing they're doing is they gave them all these cameras and they have to take selfies through the whole episode, and it is so obnoxious.
Does Buck show up?
It's the worst.
It's more obnoxious than my Hangin' Tough Dance. It is really bad.
I could watch the Hangin' Tough Dance. I can't watch this selfie.
You want to see me prancercise?
I do. Oh my gosh, do I?
We didn't have video did the Prancercise
No.
Junkie episode.
No, we didn't.
But anyway, so I don't like the selfies, but I do like the idea of the first date kind of thing. So I'm hanging in there, but I'm hanging tough.
Yeah, bringing it all back.
But I don't, I'm just not, I'm a little nervous, and I do love the show so much, so I'm hoping they don't screw it up completely with these selfies.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny, because when we saw the first few minutes, and they said they're doing this thing with the couples, I was okay with it. And then when they started it, it was a lot of like the Bachelor merged with it, where they were like, oh, it's our first date, and they're meeting, and they're like, oh, you're cute, you're this, and I'm going, uh-oh. Yeah. I think they broke the show. But very quickly, I got over that because it did get interesting, because that kind of went by the wayside very quickly. I was nervous, I thought it was going to be terrible, but that selfie thing
so obnoxious.
Is awful.
And the first three winners, the top three contestants that made it to the end first were all the new ones that had never dated before. And I thought, oh, I want to.
Because we thought for sure they were going to go out.
Them an edge that they're have to try a little harder maybe because they're.
Oh yeah, because we've been married 20.
I would not be impressed.
2 years. We're not trying hard at all.
You wouldn't listen to Rob, and Rob said go this way, you'd be like, no, go this way. Speaking from experience, I know. I was like Kathleen, which way do you want to go?
And it's like 10 hours later, okay, now are you going to listen to me because you've gotten us so lost?
Yeah.
We are now in New Zealand.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. New Zealand. Shall we talk about New Zealand?
Shire.
Okay, so that's all I have to say. Jonathan Knight from New Kids.
I didn't know who he was, but I did know they said he was from New Kids.
Oh, and he has an anxiety disorder.
Yes.
And so he's trying to
hang tough
while
bring it all back.
While running this race and not
yes.
And not completely falling apart from the anxiety.
Yes.
Rather interesting.
I do like that they didn't bring somebody from Big Brother this season, because that seems to be their latest, is every season somebody from Big Brother is on.
Yeah, like,
you got to well, we have loved certain ones, but it does get a little,
too. I forget their name.
It gets a little boring when it's the same formula. I do like they're mixing it up, because Survivor has done a good job of that in the last few years, of saying, we're going to take the premise and we're going to shake the bag, change it up a little bit. And I think they've done a good job with it. Even when it didn't work and you're like, yeah, by the end of the season, you're like, okay, I didn't really care for that. Sure. You're right back the next season. Like, it just started the other night. We haven't watched it yet, but I'm all in.
We watched the one. We have an episode at home waiting.
Right, we haven't watched any Survivor yet.
Oh, I'm talking about it. What are we talking? When did you start talking about
Survivor? We were just talking about it.
Wait, you don't pay attention on the audience? No. You're not paying attention up here? That's the new podcast.
That is 22 years of marriage. My voice is just a drone.
I just hear blah,
blah.
Spider, blah, 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 man, blah, blah, blah.
All in what?
Yeah, right. Okay. Chris, you got one?
I would say, we kind of touched base on it, like, saw the Kingsman yesterday, which I thought was
the
really...
Band?
The band, yes. They came back.
They did Louie.
And they did that. No, the movie that was with Colin Firth, and surprise, Michael Caine plays another Englishman in this movie. But it was actually very entertaining, and I didn't know...
Colin Firth is awesome. I heard he was awesome.
He's really... It's a very interesting movie. It's a typical... They're a spy organization, but they're not MI6 or CIA. They're like...
Kingsmen.
They're Kingsmen. Exactly. That's what
the
they
name.
are. But they're not affiliated with the Crown. Actually, the name came from the Taylor Shop.
Really?
So the Kingsmen
I
Taylor
assumed
Shop.
they were part of the Crown.
No, they were not part of the Crown. They're not government affiliated. They are their own independent thing.
They're like S.H.I.E.L.D.
Like S.H.I.E.L.D., exactly. So
yes.
It is very interesting.
Now we're talking.
And they're all gentlemen and aristocratic and things. And the story is that one of the guys that's a Kingsman gets killed. And there's only so many of them. There's only 12 like Knights of the Round Table, and when one passes, they bring up a new one. One of the guys dies, and Colin Firth feels responsible because he made a mistake. And his son is a little boy. It's very Star Warsy. He's very. I'll go into that later.
Does he have midichlorians?
Well, yeah, he does have midichlorians. So then when the boy grows up, another one of the agents dies, and Colin Firth says, hey, I can maybe bring this kid on because he's got his father's genes and he's very talented and very smart and all that stuff. So it's the story of him kind of becoming a Kingsman. So they're obviously setting up for a sequel in the.
This sounds awesome.
It's very good. The thing that I didn't know about it or didn't understand going in was whether it was serious or not, because I don't know if you saw the trailers.
Samuel Jackson has that big list.
Samuel Jackson has a list. So is it being like is it mocking it? Or
I don't know.
Well, it kind of is, and it kind of isn't. And during the whole movie, all they're doing, literally, not in every scene, but a majority of the time, is doing takeoffs from 80s movies. So they do a thing for trading places like, hey, you're looking good. He's like, I'm feeling good. You know, they kind of they do a scene from The Shining, not to give a spoilers, where something happens at the end and one of the characters cuts through a door with
here's Johnny.
Exactly. I was like, wait for it. I'm like, here's Johnny. But it was very much like that. And they stole, not stole a lot, but I think they made a lot of 80s and 90s movies and put them in there. So.
This sounds awesome to me.
It is.
It's a Mark Millar wrote it.
Yeah.
It's
a high
Mark Millard was Alice's boyfriend on the Brady Bunch.
Alice's boyfriend from the Brady Bunch wrote this.
That's right.
Aren't you guys glad I'm here to elevate your podcast?
It was about 200 feet.
And I was making you do you have your dad's jeans too.
You're wearing your mom's jeans, aren't you? Did you get them on the jeans bin?
Yeah.
Yes. So.
And I'm wearing my dad's jeans. No, his would be too small.
But
they have paint on them. Yeah, thanks.
But Mark
Millar, he's the one that wrote Kick-Ass.
Yes. So I think I kind of took it as a tongue-in-cheek, but it was very entertaining. And there's some parts that were a little silly as it is. High body count, but it's that crossover.
I have no problem with that.
In a kind of a ridiculous way.
I have no problem with that. That sounds awesome.
But it's good that, So
when I saw the preview for this and I saw Sam Jackson doing the list thing, it turned me off. Because I thought I didn't get what was going on. But the more I've seen previews, the more I'm in. Because we were talking earlier tonight about like Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Right, yes.
And, that type of like, what would you call it, like mod spy thing is awesome. I loved it. Like Austin Powers had that mod spy thing, and this looks like a modern.
Not that original.
But the original Adventures, not the one with Uma Thurman. Not the Uma Thurman movie. No, the original.
The original series.
Yes, with Emma Peel. Yes.
And this is
There's an Emma Peel comic book. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a The Adventures of Emma Peel is a really good comic book. I got to meet the writer at Comic-Con last year, and we completely geeked out about the Avengers and about how bad.
Did Guy Ritchie do the Avengers? Who directed it?
Oh, I don't know.
Where did he go?
Guy Ritchie?
He's doing Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh.
It's going to be
fantastic. That's Guy Ritchie?
I think it's Guy Ritchie.
Oh, now I'm even more in.
It's going to be fantastic.
Is Vinnie Jones in it?
say that earlier, right? I didn't
No.
That's awesome.
Again, I hate to say this, I believe, but that's what I remember from seeing the trailer. So.
Excellent.
Because I'm
all in
his
on
name
that
in
one.
ages.
He was busy doing the 2 Sherlocks, which I thought were really good.
Yeah, those were great. What are you talking about?
No, I was there. He was not.
What, two solo blockbusters? No, that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. So.
Yeah. Martha making her Madonna jokes over here. So, all right. Well, okay, I'm going to highlight one. I had a tough time coming up with my inputs for this week because I'm kind of in the middle of series, things I've kind of talked about before.
And you started at 5:30 with it?
Yeah. But I started one this week that I'm really digging. I have only watched one episode, and I think they're in like the 8th season, and I've always heard how good this is. That one episode was enough to hook me. And we were just talking about like mod spy shows, and that it tweaks that same thing. Have you ever seen the show The Venture Brothers?
No.
Anybody know The Venture Brothers?
No, I used to shop at Venture.
Do you watch The Venture Brothers?
No, I haven't.
But you know what it is. Okay. So in The Venture.
Peg, you remember shopping at Venture?
Oh, yeah, that I remember.
Turnstile.
But now with my brothers, I didn't know.
Or Corvettes. My dad used to shop at Corvettes. I think he just shot there because of the name.
See?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's hip-hop.
Yeah,
So The Venture Brothers is an animated show. It's on, I think, Cartoon Network. unlike Archer, Archer is completely adult.
And so highly inappropriate.
Yes.
Even for most adults.
This is not. This is more like Clutch Cargo, or what was the one? Remember the one with Haji and the puppy?
Oh, Johnny Quest.
Johnny Quest!
That was fantastic.
You got
Yes!
Johnny Quest from Haji and the puppy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Johnny Quest. Haji? What are you talking about?
I guess
Yes.
Ruth does too.
Ruth got it.
Remember at the beginning of Johnny Quest when it had the robots that looked like spiders? It was just in the intro, and it was like
Yes.
dun 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 dun. And what? Those are in the beginning of Venture Brothers.
Oh, that's...
Yes. So I'm watching it, and I was like, yep.
You have 8 seasons to make up.
Yeah, Chris, it was...
Next week I'll have a report. So.
Chris,
Counterculture.
it was 20 seconds into it. I saw those things, and I'm like, well, I'm in for 8 seasons. Oh my gosh.
It could be a blank, it could be a test pattern, and oh, this is the greatest thing ever.
The show is essentially a comedy. Well, it is a comedy, but it's like a Johnny Quest comedy. Like
so it's a
comedy, yes. This there's a big guy named Samson that has this blonde like mullet, and the voice is David Putty.
Our cat.
Tick.
Our cat is named after him.
Yeah, it's our cat's voice, actually.
He's a face painter.
I can't think of his name. I'm completely drawing a blank
His
here.
name.
But
Putty's okay.
it's Putty, yeah. But he does the voice of Samson, and it's spot on. And then the professor looks like he's like this weaselly little looks like a light bulb.
If it's Steve Buscemi, I'll be...
No, but like you need that.
Dean from Community.
That's what it looks like. It looks like the dean from Community, and he kind of sounds like it, but it's not him. And then the kids, the Venture Brothers, are two teenagers. You can talk about that when we're done. I want to talk about that one too. But it's like 2 teenagers. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like 2 teenage boys, and they're just kind of doofusy, and like all this stuff is happening around them, and like they're like wrestling, like while all this stuff is going on, like I'm telling Dad, and they start wrestling, and it's like animated like Johnny Quest, and it's goofy, and it's got those robot things. I am all in on this show. I can't believe I went this one. And like in the intro logo thing, there's like a thing where it's like the same kind of Johnny Quest music, and it's like circle and a skull in the middle, and I'm like, oh, everything about this is awesome.
Okay, has anyone seen it?
Has anyone?
I've seen parts of it.
You've seen parts of it. Did you like it? How dare you? We need to go back and watch that.
Don't yell at birthday boy.
I am certainly part of your happy birthday.
Oh wait, Mr. Birthday. I called you birthday boy, that was not the same.
I pulled back the H on the happy birthday. We'll see if you get it back by the end of the night.
5 stars down to 4.
Yes, that's how I rate things. It starts at 5 stars, it has to work its way down. And this show has hit 5 stars. You get the robot things from Johnny Quest. 5 stars. If Haji shows up, or that dumb dog.
Do they have the mouths in there? That's all I need.
No, that's Clutch Cargo.
But, we talked about
No, they don't have the Clutch Cargo, but I love that too. I love that show, and that was Johnny Quest, but with like a mouth.
We should animate our podcast and put the mouths. See? Jenny likes that.
Tough dance.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we have a video podcast now. It makes it even better. So there you go. Martha, you got one?
Yes. Okay. Better Call Saul. Did anybody like Breaking Bad?
Never heard of it.
Okay, we can't, you gotta say it, because we can't see
Okay,
it.
it's a anime show. So you like Breaking Bad. Anyone else like
Not-
Breaking Bad?
yeah.
Breaking Bad?
Jenny,
Okay.
you're not allowed to watch that one.
Yeah, my mom wants to watch
I
it.
think I'm 13. Not till you're, oh yeah, you want to have a meth lab in the basement all of a sudden. Like, she'll wake up one morning.
You have to wait till you're 16.
Yes, then
Right.
start your meth lab. But,
Right. Molly, did you hear that? You're 16, honey.
Also, her TV room is in the basement.
Oh, there we go.
yeah, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Dual use.
But Better Call Saul is the prequel to Breaking Bad, and it's Bob Odenkirk who plays Saul, and then Jonathan Banks is in it, who plays my favorite character, Mike. I love him. And,
Mike is great.
And Michael
And
McKean.
have you watched it?
Yeah.
How great is he on this show?
We've only seen the first episode.
Oh,
That's
I
all
won't
you need to
split.
see.
Here, do whatever you want. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, he's brilliant. And then Michael McKeon plays Saul's brother. Well, his name's actually Jim, but he hasn't become Saul yet.
Right.
But he plays his brother who has some kind of environmental issue.
Yeah.
He won't leave his house unless he's wrapped in a foil, like a...
Yeah, he's got to wrapped in
He
foil
kind of reminds me
outside.
of Ruth.
Yeah. Before you walk into his house, you have to ground yourself. He does all these crazy things to, this environment doesn't feel right. It's one of those kind of things.
Yes.
So
We have our reasons.
I know. Well, he does, but he's
better call Ruth.
Better call Ruth, yeah. So he's
Ruth, that's what you get for speaking up.
That's right.
but he's
It's so good.
he's Michael McKeon. Let's not.
It's
forget.
Michael McKeon.
But
Again, do
Vince
what you want.
Gilligan, who
Vince Gilligan.
Yes.
who I have been in love with.
Now, did you see-
X-Files. Wait, I have to talk about
I'm sorry.
X-Files.
No. Whoa, we stepped on that
I
one.
stepped on X-Files.
Are you going to start blowing
No,
now?
oh no, I'm on video.
Yeah, it's going to be on camera.
Okay, I just have to move over here for a second.
Wait a minute. Let me see if I can. Scully.
Okay.
Let me get that.
Oh,
The
yeah.
barbecue sauce.
Okay, there's that, yeah, okay. But yeah, so he wrote my favorite
I never
episodes
had it.
on X-Files.
Scully, it's me.
And then when he was doing Breaking Bad, I didn't even care if Breaking Bad was bad. I would have
Right.
watched it. I know
Because
it
it's
was.
been, look how she's got all flustered.
Okay, we gotta stop talking about X-Files. All right, there we go. That's all.
You're like a glowing red.
That's all I have to say.
Scully, I think there's a bee in your shoe.
Oh, you're stuck. Why are you taking the jelly?
Oh my
Why are you
gosh.
turning to Shelby?
What is going on with that?
Okay, there you
Mulder,
go.
can you look at these mosquito bites?
Why did I even
Those
bring it
mosquito
up?
bites, Scully.
I can't. There's one more I want to bring up, but we'll leave that to the end because it might be depressing. But there was.
Oh, wait.
We'll go down that. too.
Don't you want to just get it over?
I don't because
It's too depressing.
It's a celebration.
That's depressing.
Celebration of life.
They have started filming season 9 of Doctor Who, and
This is sad.
This is
no,
depressing.
this is not. I'm
Oh.
saving
I was
it
gonna
till
say,
later.
what-
I said I was saving it until later.
Okay, so let's hear it.
No,
They started
we're not
filming season
doing
9.
it. So they showed a picture of, again starting the character Missy, who is the master.
Yeah.
Yes.
They showed her walking to the set, and she had a time vortex manipulator on her wrist.
Yep.
Which I thought was fantastic. I
Yep,
was like,
because
yeah.
she didn't die. That's how she did it.
That's right, that's how she did it. So.
Do you think in any way that they will bring Danny back? If they can bring her back, do you think there's anything going on where they could possibly, because he launched into space,
I don't think they want
To
it.
be honest, I think it would be more possible to bring back Captain Jack Harkness than it would Danny.
Well, he's not dead, Jack.
Yeah, Jack
Yeah,
Harkness is
yeah,
back.
that's why.
But Danny is technically uploaded, so they could
bring it back.
I mean,
I just wonder. I mean, it seems like the way things ended.
Also, because Peter Capaldi was also on Torchwood in the Children of Earth special.
Yes.
So there you
could
go.
easily tie those two together.
Why not? I'm all for it. Let's call Moffat.
Let's call him off and bring him back. So.
Let's call.
I'm just going to
I know
sit here
you're-
and play
you make that call.
I know you're just sitting there thinking about X-Files.
That's right, so.
No, I'm trying not to think about it. Trying to get the blood.
Scully, I think it's a vampire.
Wait, we're not going back there.
It's
Wait,
okay.
wait.
And then you throw in Captain
Captain Jack.
Jack.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
a blush. It's a blush a second there.
It's a flush a second. Yeah.
Which I thought was, which I think is great because they like to bring no spoilers. So.
Yeah, you know what, I read that same thing, and they said that, and I guess Moffat actually said, because somebody asked him, like, well, about this, and he said, well, yeah, of course, I'm killing the master that way. Like,
He doesn't. But the problem that I have with that is he doesn't need to justify bringing the master back because the master always comes back regardless of what.
well, yeah, and
circumstances
they're also, it's like
are.
Doctor Who. If Doctor Who dies and doesn't regenerate, well, but we haven't seen every minute of Doctor Who's life.
No.
And he's sliding in and out of different time frames, and
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
And they've already, it's canon that.
They could start a David Tennant series today
Well, then they can
and
bring
make
in
it make
Secretary.
sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
they could just go back in a certain time, but they also.
Well, the 13th Doctor is going to be David Duchovny, so.
Oh,
I actually think the doctor should be a woman.
yeah.
Scully will be the Doctor, and Dick will be her companion.
Doctor.
Mulder, it's me. Let's get in the TARDIS. What'd you call me? Scully. All right. So yeah, man, I'm totally into this, and I can't wait. Now, when does that premiere? Is that in the fall?
It's in the fall, so end of August,
You
September.
should know that because we do a podcast.
Well, yeah, but I know we do a podcast about it, but in the past they have split the season, and this last one they didn't split. I didn't know if they were planning on splitting it.
It's scheduled for autumn, they haven't given a date, so.
So it's probably
last
gonna
2
run
weeks in
straight
August.
through.
Yeah, it'll run straight through. That's what they had indicated, it's another straight through. Because I think they're doing the Doctor Who every year and then Sherlock every 18 months. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what they're going with.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Which the Sherlock thing, who knows? I mean, I know they're doing the fourth
Okay,
season.
first off, Sherlock fans have to wait 18 months, and then they only get like 3 episodes.
Right, but they are an hour and a half. It's like a movie. So
Not fair.
it's all good. And
Hey,
but he, in the meantime, he gets to be Doctor Strange.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, there's that.
I was excited that Cumberbatch has BBC by the
Cumberbatch?
by the Cumberbund. So I mean, he's so hot right now. He is in every.
Oh,
I'll
so he's
say.
bringing sexy back?
He's bringing sexy back.
That's another one. That's another blusher right there. What? Yeah.
I don't know if she blushes over the Cumberbatch.
I do, whenever he says, there you go, please, she's blushing, then it makes me.
Well, yes.
Then the face happens.
That's right.
Because I can't control it. Yeah.
Scully, you're going to hide that face.
Why are you blushing?
I think I see Samantha. Okay, so anyway, do you have one, Mark?
I did too.
You did too.
What do you want? You gotta do another one.
Okay. Well, I will. I told you I wasn't very well prepared for this. It was a weird week.
I'm glad you
Well,
care about your company.
well, no, I mean because the stuff that I watched this
First
week,
people making
it was
Amazing Grace
all
are Robin.
Yes.
it was all worst couple ever.
First murderer.
Yes. In the past they've never been able to vote people off of the Amazing Race, but somehow
You turned us so many times it broke every record.
Actually, Phil would have to step in and say, "You guys can't U-turn each other." Just
Yeah, that's true. We're trying to take each
Yeah.
other out. I'm gonna win this race without him.
Yep. So, like I said, I was watching. I watched a couple episodes of Buffy this week. I watched Gotham. I'd like to talk about Gotham for a second. I don't know. Is anyone watching Gotham?
Jenny.
Or anyone else? Anyone? Bueller? So this.
You guys aren't watching Gotham? No?
I was behind Gotham, and this week I caught up. And last night I watched the last two, and it's interesting. The reason I bring it up is I do like it, and I've been kind of wondering what they were doing with certain things. This last two, they introduced a character that they were hinting at as the Joker. Did you see this one with the Joker?
I'm about a month behind, so that's. But it's
Okay.
okay. You can spoil it for me.
Well, I'm not going to spoil anything. I mean, in the previews are like, this week's villain is no joke. Okay? And then this guy does this thing. The reason I bring it up with him, if he's not the Joker, they're making a huge mistake. This guy, I'm going to call him a kid because he's probably like 18, is amazing. When I was watching him, I'm like, there's a point when he's being normal, and they're talking about somebody getting murdered, and then he flips. And when he flips, it's a cross between Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson. It's got, how, like Nicholson played the Joker a certain way. Heath Ledger, there was an element of danger to him. This perfectly walks the line. There is an element of danger. Like the hair on the back of your neck goes up, but he kind of sounds like Jack Nicholson. Like he makes a face and he's like, and you go, oh my gosh, if that's not the Joker, if they're just using this guy like, oh, we're going to use this to tease, they're making a big mistake because this was the right guy. amazing. And they don't need it to be the Joker, just have to be a peripheral player. And it was really cool. So if you're not watching Gotham, I suggest at least watching this. It was a standalone. They were in a circus. You saw it in Grayson's, which Grayson's are Dick Grayson's parents. Dick Grayson became Robin, blah, blah, blah. This is all prequel stuff. It's kind of cool to know that, but you get to see him at a circus. And Martha doesn't watch the show, but I had it on. I had the beginning on, and it had Commissioner Gordon and his girlfriend about to go on a date. And he's like, what are we going to do tonight? She goes, I want to go to the circus. And Martha goes, worst date ever. Who goes to a circus?
I would not.
So they go to the circus, and a murder happens. And eventually we meet this
That's
guy.
because clowns are scary, and they shouldn't be allowed.
It's really good. And then the second one was the Red Hood. And the only reason I bring that up is, what I thought was interesting is, it seems to have magical properties, which, when you watch these shows, they all deal with superheroes and fighting and, but that mystical, magical element isn't there.
Right.
And this really had it, and I thought, I wonder if that's what this series is going to do, is introduce that into this. That makes it a very different TV show.
Absolutely.
So there you go. I just wanted to highlight that.
I always enjoyed that, especially the early superheroes didn't have that, even though Superman is kind of magical.
Yeah, but he's not. That's his real weakness is magic.
Right. But I mean,
He's
but
magical to Chris.
He's magical.
But that was explained in the comic books later, not originally. Where
Right. Well, that was when he was killed by Doug Henning.
But that's what I like. And so then when they did the Super Friends, they brought in the magic part of it. I thought.
Right.
So when they did Justice League and
they
brought in more of a
mystical elements and that. And the space stuff really kicked in.
Yeah, which was okay, but
you don't see that on these shows.
No,
you don't really they always explain it away with superhero science.
Right.
But this, basically, what happens is this guy puts on this red hood ski mask. They're going to go around the bank. He puts on the red ski mask, and all of a sudden he's like, I'm impervious to bullets, and he jumps on the thing, and they're shooting at him, and they miss, and at first I'm like, okay, that's not magical, just something happened. But then another guy puts the hood on, and he kind of goes the same way. And then at the very end, a kid picks it up and puts it on, and starts going up to the police, just going bam, bam with his finger, and you're like, is this hood somehow possessed? And I'm like, I'm not so into the idea of it being possessed, I'm more into the idea of it's introducing the magical element, which is cool.
Yeah, I think it would be. So
there's
a lot more possibility because you can pretty much explain anything that you want by that. So it does open the door.
And it also might give Gallagher a chance to get back on TV. Did he do magic? No, he just did some magic stuff.
Well, they were
Doug Henning, Carrot Tom. Carrot Tom didn't do magic. He was a prop comedian. But they could bring him in.
So Gallagher did magic.
Did he?
No, he smashed.
He smashed watermelon.
Well, it was magic to me.
Magic to me.
He was messy.
I
don't think he was magic.
Do you guys remember Doug Henning, or is it just us that remember Doug Henning? He was super popular.
Yeah. Well, now they have David Blaine.
Yeah.
David Copperfield.
Chris Angel. Is it Chris Angel?
Chris Angel. Yeah.
Which if he wasn't as weird as he was, he's pretty.
He's like the Marilyn Manson of magic.
Marilyn Manson of magic. Actually, didn't David Tennant play basically him in that remake of Fright Night?
He played Chris Angel.
He basically was being Chris Angel. He had the goth thing going. Did anyone see that? Just me?
No.
Too bad. I liked it. The second one is terrible. It didn't start at 5 stars. That one started at 1 star, and it went down from there. It was really bad. Oh, man. Yeah. All right.
All right. Is anyone watching Walking Dead?
Yes.
Sometimes. You got your age back. Good job.
I like zombie shows.
This is the best season ever. Do you watch Walking Dead? No, I'm not going to spoil it. Have you haven't seen the season?
You didn't
yet?
see Rick die yet? Ooh.
Oh, no,
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Oh, he comes back. It's okay.
Yeah, right. He comes back as a zombie.
He comes back right away.
I think it's the best season. Unbelievable. That's all I have to say.
Well, that
was a short episode.
Yeah, that was really short. You know what? I read the entire series of comics up to a point. I haven't read the last couple of issues. And I really encourage people to read it, because at this point it has gone so diverse from the original source material, but there are threads. It's really interesting to compare the two, and I don't feel spoiled at all. It's more like built-in excitement. Right. Like, like I know a character is coming. There are little clues that are happening. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this character to show up. But when you think about, like, Tyrese was a character that, when he was introduced, I was really excited. And they didn't do anything with Tyrese, they did little bits, until well after his storyline was basically done in the comics. His character's still there and still doing stuff. And then it got really interesting, and I'm like, wait a minute. They're taking these core things and they're just completely reworking it. It's like an alternate world. It's really, really great. And this season has been exciting.
Yeah, it has been. Well, I always think that the translation of, even if it's a graphic novel to a movie or a written book to a movie, it's hard to get everything in there, especially in the limited time they have.
Right.
And so there are decisions they have to make. There were decisions in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, good and bad, that have to be made. So they go with what, they have to sell the TV show too, even though it's a very popular graphic novel, they have to sell.
But it's interesting how they're not sticking to it. That's what's so interesting. It's like they're just taking loose ideas and loose character things and playing with them. I like how you'll see certain characters on it that if you read the books, you go, well, this is clearly so-and-so. And in the show, they've given all those attributes to somebody else. And over time you start to realize, oh, that's so-and-so from the book. Completely different. And it might be even the same character names, but a different character. It's really cool. Either that or they don't know what they're doing at all. It's just a complete mess up, but I'm falling for it.
And
it's working for me.
Let's hit it for you.
All right, we got. What's your
Well, no, I just
have got time for one more here.
One more. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. It's about the passing of Leonard Nimoy and how I think impactful in the entire geekdom it is, and how I mean, and not to be impressive, because I think he did a lot of things and he contributed greatly. And yes, it sucks that he passed, but he was, he
had a full life, and really made a mark. He did. Oh, well played. Martha knows one Star Trek reference.
And I used it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well played.
Yeah.
Damn it, Martha.
I'm a doctor, not a magician.
Oh, see?
See, I know a couple things.
A couple. Yeah.
I mean, as popular as the Captain Kirk and everybody kind of leads that Star Trek, I believe that Spock was the one that made it go.
I completely agree.
He was
if Spock wasn't there,
it would have been him and Bones, and that would have been fun.
Yeah, no. And actually, of the three, Bones and Spock, I prefer over Kirk, even though everyone always, you like Kirk. Sure. I like those two characters more. Spock being one, two is Bones, three would be Kirk. So, but it's now Shatner's time to shine because those two are dead. So.
Yes. No, and he's done such a poor job of shining himself. So.
Right.
I mean, he was able to sell himself. I'll give William Shatner all the props.
Oh, sure.
That whole Priceline thing.
Well, when you have a stake in the company,
yeah,
that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, hey, you can sell it. That's great. So.
Yep. Yeah, but Leonard Nimoy, I mean, to me, when you look at, because it's like the Beatles. There's always going to be the Lennon-McCartney comparison. There's always going to be the Shatner-Nimoy comparison, where you're going to put one against the other, even though they're very different. Nimoy is more the artist.
Right.
Like when you think of him as an actor, he embodied Spock so greatly that you almost can't separate him. But then when you see him in other things, he's just as good.
Yeah.
And as a director, really accomplished.
Well, and everything you read about him, everyone who met him loved him.
Right.
So which you can't really say with Shatner.
Yeah, no. You might stretch to die.
You might say the opposite.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and actually we are saying the opposite.
Yeah.
But that's.
And Shatner's done some great stuff, and I'm a fan of some of the stuff he's done, and I don't mean to poop on the Shatner, so to speak, but hashtag poop on the Shatner. But I'm not taking the shat to the Shatner.
It's a Shatner property.
Right. But I don't consider him like an artist like that. Although I have heard that when he was cast, that he was quite a good actor. It's just he's got this weird affected way of doing it that became a parody.
Right.
But I heard that when he was cast, like, this was like, wow, you're going to get a real actor in this role. And really, I will actually give the guy some props because Shatner.
Aren't we supposed to be talking
No,
about
because
we're covering the culture.
I just something wrong.
I do want to, because he played, does anyone remember Terror at 20,000 Feet?
Oh,
The Twilight Zone episode?
That was unbelievable.
That was Shatner.
Right.
Just a lot of people forget that that was him. He's the guy that sees the gremlin on the wing of the plane and freaks out. And then in the movie, it was John Lithgow played that character. That is a performance. That's amazing stuff. I mean, I love it. So, and Nimoy was on that show too.
Right. They were all in all with the whole show back then.
Yeah, he was great.
Because there were only like 20 actors.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like how many English guys there are. But you know, like the one thing I'll appreciate about William Shatner is he wasn't afraid to poke fun of that. I mean, when he did the
Saturday Night Live thing, is that what you're going to bring up?
well, the Saturday Night Live thing, and then the airport or the airplane to making fun of himself. The thing
That was funny.
I mean, I think that. I mean, I think that takes a little bit of self-awareness to be like, hey, even I understand that it was crazy. And
yeah, and I think
in,
Nimoy didn't. I don't know if because of who he was, I don't know if he would have approached him the same way.
Right.
Like, I don't know if he had those opportunities because really, do you want to see him making fun of himself? I don't think
No.
so.
Nimoy seems more intelligent.
Hey, way to throw barbs out there.
It's supposed to be about Nimoy.
It is. But I did say he does seem more like
narrate the one in search of or
Yes.
In search of.
Yeah.
See,
Search
now I know
of
how to
Bigfoot.
divert their attention.
Oh, man.
Right.
Do you know what's funny? I listen to, you'll be shocked by this, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I listen to these weird, you know, like, I listen to Jim Harold's Paranormal Podcast, which is great if you love, like, weird UFO stuff. And they often talk about, you get all these guys on that are, like, experts in the field. All of them talk about In Search Of and talk about Leonard Nimoy. Like,
Sure.
it happens almost to a man. Somebody will say something like, well, you know, when I was a kid, I watched In Search Of, and Leonard Nimoy's show changed my life. That's kind of amazing that, like,
No
what's
one's
touch
really
stuff?
saying that William Shatner's changed their life. I don't think. Like, that might be stretching a little bit.
Way to throw the barbs out of the
But
shade.
anyway, we're going back to Leonard Nimoy,
Yep.
sorry.
TJ Hooker didn't change your life.
TJ
That hairpiece changed my life. It's like, oh, hello.
I'm also a client.
All right.
Oh,
Well, now that you bumped us out with the Nimoy talk, are we done? You guys have anything else?
I'm good.
Chris?
I'm good.
All right, well, let's end it. I think that was a good input, Junkie. It was interesting. Thank you so much, interesting. Oh, it's not to you. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. You can listen to our other podcasts and other episodes of this and Counterculture, which we refer to, at our website, which is www.southgatemediagroup.com. And follow us on Twitter at SMG Pods. That's it. Thank you so much, Blue Box. This was live at the Blue Box. And great coffee, great sandwiches. Come on down and catch a live podcast on Saturday nights. That's it, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.